Hi everyone! I am posting the video for the project for this week. Now remember, when we're doing Zentangled stuff, it's meant to be relaxing, so don't stress. Next, your project. You have to have 10 different Zentangled patterns in your project this week. Let's say that again. You have to have 10 different Zentangled patterns in your project this week. You need to have thick lines and thin lines in your project this week. You need to have some spaces that are completely filled in around your designs. So that way it helps add contrast, just like what we talked with your Zentangled flowers from last week. So keep that in mind. We're still building upon this. And I would like to see neatness. If you make a mistake, erase it. If you don't, or if you fill something in messily and it goes outside the line, fix it up. That's why we have erasers. All right, and I want to see some creativity. You don't have to do the same exact designs as I'm doing this week, but I would like to see some creativity. All right, so let's draw the project for this week. So if we're going to put 10 different designs in something, what I would like to see is you can either do it this way or this way. I'm going to do it this way because it's going to be a lot easier for me to draw. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I like to set this so it's comfortable for me to draw. Let's see, right there, that looks like a pretty good spot. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create different ways to break up my paper. This can look like a really flowy picture, or it can look like different stuff. All right, so let's see, we'll do this like this. We'll bring it over here. I'm going to do one where it comes over and then over. Make this one stop right here, and then I'm going to have this one come over. All right, so I have enough spaces to create 10 different designs. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you guys about doing a mandala. A mandala is when you have a radiating, so you're starting from a central point. So say like this is my central point, this dot, and then I would create a circular pattern that would come out of it, almost like a bicycle wheel has like that dot in the middle that holds all the spokes to it. It would be the same idea. So a mandala can be one of your many different designs that you are creating this week. And remember, be creative. Take your time. Make them awesome. So notice how my design is just kind of growing as it goes. Maybe I'm going to do some different little. Now I'm just kind of going for it. That one was kind of weird. But if you have like a serious plan, go ahead and do that. Plan it out. Make it awesome. This one you'd see like right there. This one right here. This one right here. This one right here. And I think I would just do some little dots to end it. Just so that it looks like it's going out. Okay, so this would be my first pattern. 1. If I wanted to do another one, I'd like to see some patterns that fill in your spaces that you create. So that's where this big one right here is going to come in. So your patterns can be as basic as just some triangles coming through that you go back in and you thicken the lines for. So if you did something like this, that would be another design. Now remember, you have to go back in and fill in spaces, make things darker. So if you went back in and you filled in every single little triangle that you made, so fill it in really neatly and nicely. Notice how I'm not just scribbling and rushing off and not caring that the spot wasn't cleaned up. I went back in and I fixed it up. Even though you're working from home, I'm still expecting the same quality of work. I want to see effort. I want to see that you're trying. I want to see that you're taking your projects seriously, because these are all grades on Q4. And I know you guys are all amazing drawers. I've told you all year. So I'm hoping that you can continue up the amazing artwork that you've been doing. All right, so just by filling this in, you're going to create this really interesting contrast compared to this one. If you decided that you're going to go back in and fill in some of these because you liked the way that the contrast helped with it, that'd be awesome, because just by filling in this little piece right here, I've already created more interesting, it's going to draw your eye in a little bit better than if I had just left it with just the lines. And if you don't want to fill in every little area, you can always go back in and just thicken up lines. Just thickening up different lines is going to make a big difference. Okay, it's going to draw interest to your artwork. All right, so maybe the next thing I would do is, okay, so I'm going to start a little bit further down right here, and I'm going to bring this line to follow down on this one. Then I'm going to go back over here, and where that line was that I just made, I'm going to do another one that follows, and I'm going to go back and forth. All right, but you should probably bring them all the way to the edge of your paper. It's just really hard for me to do this. All right, so now you have like this really cool little weaving looking piece. And the fun part is you can actually go back in and thicken up this line right here and really show off the fact that they are overlapping each other and that they're interesting. So you can create that. All right, so another thing I would do is I would go in with some half circles or some little curved lines, and I'd follow the shape of the space that you're putting in right here. And I'd make them grow with the space. And just by doing that, you are creating something interesting. All right, so you could leave it just like this. You can go back in, and I would personally, because I've seen them done like this, I'd fill in the space. You can look up different Zentangle designs on YouTube or Google, and you can put them into the space that I have right here. But I would definitely fill in some areas, add some contrast. That way you can see the difference between this design right here and the design above it. If you feel like this is too plain, you can go back in and you can add like things inside it. So for example, you could even add a spiral inside it and do each one like that and make it interesting. Okay. So then your next little area, let me see. I wanted to show you some more little circle things that grow as they get into the space. They're not really just circles, they're like ovals because they stretch as they go. So just by creating something that fits the space right here, you're making it visually interesting. And that is what I'm looking for in your artwork. You could even do this project as you sit down and like watch TV. All right. And then I would go back in and I'd fill in around these spaces where they connect to each other just to create that contrast. So that way your circles are interesting. And okay, cool idea for your circles, I should say. I would do a bullseye pattern inside there because as they get bigger and smaller, they look kind of interesting. So just different ideas, filling in spaces, creating different patterns and textures. This one, I would start out like this, and I would bring in that fan design that we did before. I know how some of you just really hated it and everything, but it just works to fill in some spaces if you're not sure what you want to put in different spots. So my pencil definitely needs to be sharpened. It's actually starting to drive me crazy a little bit. So I would bring in these fans, and as you get more space, I would do the same thing you did with the circles. Stretch them out, make them bigger. So really fill in the spot. They almost look like little seashells, actually. A lot of people call them fans, but I always think they look like those little shells you find on the beach around here. Like the mussels. That one's not going to fit. That's okay. This will make a big one over here. Make it. And then, of course, this one would fill in this space. So you'd have all these different little things going on right in here. So we're starting to get there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them going. 4 more, guys. Maybe for this one, you could start all your lines at the very point where they end, and you could bring all of the other lines to follow it. So they will space out as they get further away, and they'll look like they're touching each other because they're starting from that point. And if you really want to make them interesting, you can have all of them stay really thin because that'll take away from some different stuff going on in here. And don't forget, in here, you should probably go back in and darken in some lines. Like maybe that little corner piece needs to get filled in. Or maybe you want to fill in every other line right in here, because that way it'll create a pattern and it'll look a little bit more interesting. So think of some different things that you can do to create contrast and visual interest in your artwork. Remember, you are getting graded on it. These are your 4th quarter grades. Take your time on things. Make it look awesome. You have a week to finish this up and get it in. So we're adding contrast. We're adding patterns. We're adding different Zentangled stuff, 10 altogether. So ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Almost there. All right, let me see. What were some other ones I wanted to show you? I wanted to show you a leaf design. So I'm going to do that in this one right here. So you could just do a nice basic leaf design if you wanted to. Really got to get the angles at these ones. So that'll break up that space. And if you wanted to, you could create the middle line to be a lot thicker. So that way it creates visual interest. And remember, on Fridays, we're drawing animals, like realistic animals. When we get back to school, we will be drawing realistic animals. So if you need the practice, or you don't want to get stuck drawing along with me when we get back to school, you need to start doing some of those Friday drawings, because those of you who haven't been doing them will be drawing along with me in class while everyone else is working on their projects. So I'm just going to make these darker, and I'm going to create visual contrast with that, or interest. All right. So this one, I thought I'd make it a little bit more different and interesting for you guys. So I'm going to break it up into some vertical sections, just like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go horizontal, horizontal, horizontal. Every other one is going to have horizontal lines in it. And I know it's a little bit boring, but I'm not done with it yet. And every one that we skipped is going to have vertical lines in it. So we're going to have all of this stuff going on. So we have different things going on in different sections, okay? And then, of course, I like to do, let's see, what have we not done? I really like to do like, okay, so I'm going to do like an upside down design type piece. Now, you know what? I'm going to do one of those pieces that look like they're going inward. So I'm going to start a little bit further in, and my piece is going to go right to this top piece. And then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to start it further out, and it's going to go inward towards this corner right here. Same thing with this area. I'm going to take it, I'm going to start it right here. It's coming all the way over here. So notice that I created like this extra little area. I'm going to want it. So then I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to bring this one right over to this corner. So far I've got these little pieces, but as I build upon them, you just got to remind yourself to go in the right angles, okay? So then each one will make sense as you bring it further down. Okay, so it's slowly going down. And these are really easy once you get the pattern figured out. Some people can do them really fast and like not pick their pencils up and stuff, but I really need to think it through sometimes. And most of the time it's just because I'm like explaining stuff to people on the computer and I just can't focus at the same time and draw. So you're just making sure that all of your stuff goes at an angle. So then I would stop right here because it's starting to get really far down, and I would just fill in this space because I want it to look like there's a hole at the bottom of this. So that's how I made that piece where it's going down, and all my little lines actually kind of line up, which is really neat. When they do this, that's really cool. You have your little lines that line up. So if you really wanted to, you could darken in the lines so people could follow them as they go down. Like I said, my pencil's kind of like dying over here. And then I have a piece of cardboard underneath it, so it's not making my lines very dark today, but that's okay. It'll work. So just by darkening those little lines, you're creating that like more contrast and interest going down into your picture. Same thing with this area. If I was going to make it a little bit more interesting, I would definitely darken in my lines to create some visual interest. Even if you're only darkening in the ones that are like your horizontal lines, you're still creating visual interest. I got thick lines and thin lines. All right, so ready? So I have thick lines, I have thin lines, I have areas that are filled in, creating contrast. I have patterns going on. I have 10 different Zentangled patterns. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right. I am doing neatness. I'm going back in and touching up spaces. I'm being creative. I'm adding different things here where I, would have left it blank. It's really important that you take your time and you do well on these. All right. So I can't wait to see what you guys make. And if you want to add color, you are more than welcome to. All right. Have a great week, and I will see you Friday for when we draw.